Hello everybody and welcome to Inside Blue Jay Baseball and the Ed Servais Show. I'm Yano Mangiamelli alongside Coach Ed Servais. Coach, this past weekend, not a great weekend. Lost a couple games out of 3 against BYU. But in every win and loss there are good things and positive things, negative things. Evaluate what you think about this weekend.
Well, we got a chance to see a lot of guys out in the field. It's still early for us. Obviously, we didn't play, the weekend before, so a couple of young pitchers got an opportunity to get out there and see what they can do and can't do, and we got ourselves. It was a different ball game out there. We got behind and we weren't able to rally like as easy as we did against Dallas Baptist. But I was very pleased with our starting pitching the first 2 games. I thought Nick Music did a good job. Tommy Struntz did an excellent job. We showed some life in our bullpen a little bit, especially in the second game. Mark Winkleman, excellent job for those 2 innings. We still got some issues. We still got to define some roles in that bullpen, and hopefully here shortly, starting this weekend, we'll start to do that. We didn't swing the bats quite as well as we did at Dallas Baptist, even though you can see that some guys are still doing well in that area. We need to get a couple hitters going a little bit, though. A couple guys are struggling below 200 that we know are much better offensive players than what they've shown here the first 6 games. So, anytime you go out and play in the desert, it's a little different game. I'm not a huge fan of it because it kind of goes away from what we like to do when we start playing up north here a little bit, with the bunt game and the emphasis on defense and so on. But we'll see more of that this weekend in Tennessee.
You and I talked personally about this, but I think it's worth mentioning on the video blog here is that Alex Staley on Saturday's game, really a tough kid considering the circumstances.
It was one of the more impressive efforts I've seen out of one of our players in a while. Alex was very sick the night before, came to the ballpark, had not slept at all during the evening. He even told me that he got up a few times and went outside just to get some fresh air. And we were very limited in what he did before the game started. And then he went out there and got the first, drove in the first round with an RBI double, played flawlessly in the infield. And I told him after the game, as well as a few other players, I thought the encouraging thing, Jan, was in the 3rd game, which we don't like to score the outcome of the game, but the players still played very hard. And that's what you look for sometimes. What kind of response is your team going to have when things don't go well? It was easy down at Dallas Baptist. Everything we did went well. Every time we swung the bat, squared the ball up, it was a base hit. And it didn't go as easy this weekend. So the natural instinct is to watch your team and respond to that adverse situation. So Alex did a tremendous job playing that entire game. And many of the other players played very hard, even though the score got away from us a little bit. So because of that, I'm very encouraged with what lies ahead.
This year, more so than in years past, the late winter schedule and early spring has been difficult for a lot of teams with the weather. There's been talks in the NCAA about, and they have moved the season a little bit later. Is it time to maybe for coaches to revisit? And northern schools are often penalized by weather issues.
What northern schools are probably going to have to do a little bit better job of, I don't think they can move the schedule back much more. I know the NCAA does not want to get into July 4th weekends or weeks. So I don't think they're going to move it back. What we have to be, as a northern school, we have to become a little more creative. Where can we play other northern schools down where the weather's nicer? Does that mean we have to go to Arizona or Texas and find a site where we can play these games and try to get other northern schools to come down with us? We're probably going to have to do a little bit of that. I'll be honest with you, I don't mind the schedule the way it is. It was disappointing when we came back from Dallas Baptist that we got a snowstorm and we had to go back inside. And I think that kind of curbed our ability to move forward and to improve. But indoor workouts, for me, have always been very constructive, very positive. You don't want 2 months of it, but I think 10 days of indoor workouts really gets your team focused. It really gets them in tune to the fundamental part of the game. It's easy when you go outside just to scrimmage a lot and do some of those things, and I don't think that's necessarily how you improve. So I think we just have to be more creative in our scheduling and try to pull maybe a northern team down to a site like Arizona and play so that we're all on equal footing there. It's tough sometimes when you go down and play a team like a Dallas Baptist who's been outside from the get-go.
Coach, let's turn our focus to this weekend. An unusual circumstances in that we're going to play 4 different teams in a series of 5 days, starting off with Arkansas Little Rock. That does present a little bit of an issue with preparation, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's not as easy as it has been the first couple times out when we played the same team all 3 times. So we'll go up against an Arkansas Little Rock team that's on fire right now, and I believe their record is 8-3, and they've probably won at least 5 of the last 6 games. I mean, they're playing very well right now. Had a lot of success this weekend in a little tournament they had in Little Rock, and then after we play Arkansas Little Rock on Friday, we'll play Austin Peay, which is a strong team, a team that went to a regional last year, a team that's picked to win the Ohio Valley Conference on Saturday, and then we'll play UW-Milwaukee on Sunday. And UW-Milwaukee, like us, has lost some games due to weather. And then we'll finish our trip against Southeast Missouri State on Tuesday before we head north for our home opener against North Dakota.
All those games can be heard on Internet Teamline Radio, and you can access that through the Creighton website. Arkansas Little Rock is in the Sun Belt. They have the Pitcher of the Year projected in Chance Cleveland. We may see him opening night.
I would assume that we will, and we've seen some good pitching here early. I mean, the young man that threw for BYU on the first game out in St. George, Utah on Friday was a top line pitcher. We saw a couple of really good front line pitchers against Dallas Baptist, and we'll see another one against Little Rock. And all this is for preparation for what we're going to see in our league. Yana, we have some outstanding Friday night pitchers in our league, so I think our hitters are going to respond a little bit. It's very important that we have a better week of practice. Hopefully we're not fighting through all kinds of snowstorms and things like that in preparation for what we're going to see on Friday. But I noticed he pitched against Iowa over the weekend and threw 110 pitches and threw 7 innings, walked 2 guys, struck out 6. The interesting stat in that game, Yana, was he hit 7 batters. Now that's very, very unusual. So that tells us a lot about his ability to throw inside, and he's fearless in doing that. So, you know, this is the information that we'll share with our hitters in preparation for him on Friday.
Austin Peay, our opponent on Saturday, to pick first in the Ohio Valley. They're also in the same league as Southeast Missouri State that we'll see on Tuesday. They have a Player of the Year candidate in John Hankins.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, I haven't really started our preparation too much for Austin Peay yet, but I believe he was an alternate or on Team USA last summer, so that tells you a little bit about the kind of ability this young man has. So, you know, Austin Peay, it'll be interesting down there, Jan, because from what I understand, I haven't been down there for a long, long time. From what I understand, it's a very offensive ballpark. So we're going to find out, you know, how things hold up in that kind of environment. But I think this young man is a very offensive-minded player, and I know Austin Peay puts a lot of emphasis on their offense. We
go against Milwaukee, University of Wisconsin, at Milwaukee on Sunday, and to follow suit with the other 2 opponents, they have a Pitcher of the Year in Cale Tacey. I don't know if we'll see him on Sunday or not.
I would be surprised. He pitched last night or yesterday afternoon against Evansville and had some control issues, so he got knocked out of the game fairly early. So I would assume they'll bring him back maybe on Friday or Saturday, but they might hold him off until Sundays, being that he pitched this past Sunday. So, but Milwaukee, again, very similar to Little Rock and Austin Peay. They have a tradition of being very strong offensively, so we'll see how that all plays out.
I had some questions this past week, Coach, about trying to make up the 4 games we lost, and that's difficult because your schedule is set. Is there a chance that we'll add a game this weekend?
Well, we made a lot of phone calls last week to a lot of different folks, and of course last week everybody said that their schedule was full. Now, after the phone calls made to a lot of these people, there was a snowstorm that came through, so I noticed Austin Peay lost games. So did, you know, UW-Milwaukee lost a game this weekend. Little Rock was able to get their games in. So I'm sure we'll be in conversation here the next couple of days to find a game or 2. I'm pretty confident that we'll at least get 2 or 3 of those games back. I'm not sure we're going to get 4 of them. You just run out of opportunities and freedom, because we do have, starting next week, now we'll have some midweek games. So we're just running out of dates. And we're going to work very hard. The players deserve to play a few more games. This is a very interesting group. I like these guys a lot, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that we get an opportunity to make up those games.
We're going to start this trip on Thursday at a 10 or 11 hour bus ride. travel has been somewhat of an issue this year. It's a couple long bus rides and then a plane ride or cancellation of a plane ride.
Yeah, this was an interesting trip out to St. George. You know, Yano, you made the same trip. You know, you fly from Omaha to Denver, Denver to Salt Lake. You know, get in a bus, take about a 4.5-hour bus trip down from Salt Lake to St. George, and get in about midnight, turn around and play a doubleheader the next day. So I think we're seeing some of the effects of that travel with many of our players not feeling well. We just had a couple more players that were sick last night. And so we've got to be keeping our eye on this whole situation, see how it works out. Hopefully by Tuesday or Wednesday of this week that we start to feel a little bit better. But that's another thing that you have to kind of keep your eyes on. It's one thing playing games, it's another thing to put your team in a position to be successful. And sometimes too much travel can really hurt you.
Just a reminder now, we'll play Friday, Saturday, and Sunday down in Clarksville, Tennessee, and then we'll follow up with a Tuesday game at Cape Girardeau against Southeast Missouri State. And then the Blue Jays head home for their first home games on Thursday, March 14th, followed by Pacific and then South Dakota State University. And you can order your season tickets. There's a great commercial out, Coach. I had a couple emails asking me if maybe you've seen this. If you haven't seen the commercial, it's on the Inside Blue Jay Baseball blog. You can see it. Coach, they want to know if Billy Blue Jay is asking for a rematch.
Well, if he is, he'll lose, you know, because I didn't have any problem with that commercial. You know, the guys came up to me and said they'd like to do a commercial for season tickets, and that certainly we want to do anything we can to try to promote our sport. And I said, what do I have to do? And they said, all you have to do is stare into the camera. I said, well, that's no problem. I won't have any issues with that at all. So I've seen it a couple times, Yano. It is kind of an interesting thing. I think the guys who, the ideas behind it, I'm not sure the young man's name, but I thought it turned out very well, and they deserve some credit. So, Yano, if you know who they are, make sure you give them credit, because I've heard a lot of responses too. People enjoy it.
It's Joe Willman in the athletic marketing department. Joe was a former baseball player at Northern Colorado. Well, that's it today for the Ed Servais Show. Join us for the broadcast this weekend. For Ed Servais, I'm Yano Mangiamelli. Go Jays.
Yeah! Coach. Good job.
Really, Billy? A staring contest against Coach?